How is it up in New York?
Pretty nice day.
Awesome, man.
Starting to feel humid again.
Yeah, I think I feel optimistic about the season. 2023 is going to be a good one. And I
Yeah.
should start by saying that the song that let us in was "Tears Rolling Down," which is the newest Faithless Town single, which you sing beautiful harmonies on.
It sounds great.
Yeah, man.
I
Thank you
was
for
just
being a
listening to those
part of that
harmonies.
track. It turned out great, and just the timing of you passing through Atlanta while we were recording that, because you were in town playing with the Dust
Dust
Bowl
Bowl
Fairies,
Fairies.
right, at
Yeah.
Dragon Con?
Correct.
Yeah, uh, super, which yeah, so it was just the timing, it was very serendipitous, it just worked perfectly, but thank you
It
so
timed out
much.
so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I was so happy to be on that track. It's such a beautiful song. And as you probably remember, I was trying not to cry while I was singing it in the studio. It's
Well,
like
you choked
such a
back the
moving
tears
song.
long enough. We didn't have to edit
Yeah.
out any yelping or, moans or cries. So
There's this thing when you're a singer and a songwriter too, that you have to channel the emotion of the song, but you have to have a little bit of separation so that you can get the notes out and you don't choke up. And I think I managed to do that.
you did an excellent job,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you sang them so perfectly and so quickly because those are hard harmonies to execute, and you just nailed it. Like, I was amazed at the speed at which you, and the accuracy that you hit those notes, man. So, bravo. You were a
Thank you.
very, very talented singer and songwriter. I was, as we were warming up before we went live here, I w you were playing a song, Amanda McRae, right? Which is
Yeah.
from one of your earlier albums, and I've been rocking both these albums in my car since last I saw you, which is A Perfect Shell and Stained Glass Afterglow. And yes, I'm old school. I still rock the CDs, man.
Let me remind me to tell you something about CDs, unless you want me to do it
Tell
right
me
now.
right now. Yeah, let's
I
do it.
just I did a show called the Real Life Revival. It was kind of like a think Prairie Home Companion,
Oh,
but was
okay.
live in
Yeah.
a neighboring town of Saugerties, New York. And this great singer songwriter named Robert Burke Warren hosts this event a couple times a year, and I was part of it. And I made a pitch for CDs, and I literally said to the audience, "Does anybody here have a CD player?" And they were people of a certain age, so about half of them said yes, and the young ones didn't. And I said, "Okay, you should all buy CDs because I'll tell you why. CDs sound way better than MP3s, and digital tracks just don't compare."
It's so true,
And
man.
uh,
And
and I said, "How many of you are going to go out and buy a CD player now so that you can then buy my CD later?" Nobody raised their hand.
I will be a CD man forever. I know, like, it's not nearly as hip as vinyl. Like, it's cool if you say, like, "Oh, man, I've got a great vinyl collection," and vinyl sounds great. I love it, but it's an expensive, um it's an expensive library to build,
Right.
also, when you already have, like, I have a vast collection of CDs. So, to, like, rebuild that whole thing with vinyl and have a good turntable, and I mean, I would need I would need a lot more money than I have. So for probably for the time forward, it's gonna be all CDs for me, and it's like a deal breaker too. Like, I won't buy a car, which is gonna get harder and harder here,
Same.
but I won't buy a car that doesn't have a CD player in it.
Same. I'll have one put in if I have to, but I will
Exactly.
not buy a car without a CD player. What do you think about the fact that people aren't buying CDs as much? Although apparently CD sales in 2021 went up again. But in general, I don't sell as many CDs at shows. People just don't seem that interested anymore.
No, we sell more T-shirts than
Yeah.
than any other, physical item. It's T-shirts are definitely the best seller at shows.
Yeah.
Um, so we actually made some cool, Live Free Faithless Town shirts last year, and, they've been a big hit when we play out. But yeah, people just don't buy physical media anymore. And you're right about younger generations. They're not familiar with it, and everything they've grown up with everything being streamed, and everything's in the cloud, or everything's on Apple Music or Spotify. And so, yeah, dude, we actually I played this bar. I just, like, stopped in and played this open mic years ago here in Georgia. I think it was sometime last year, or maybe it was while things were still, like, locked down in a lot of places. And I gave a CD to the booking person, and the booking person, she was, like, in her early 20s, and I think she took it, and she was like, "What is this?" Like it was like she wouldn't have any idea how she would play that, what to do with it. Like, it was just like
That is so weird.
it was
I
foreign.
just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. Like,
It would be like somebody giving us an 8-track or something at this point, and you're like, at least I would know what it was."
I wouldn't know what it was, right? An 8 track, yeah. I've seen 8 tracks before.
Did your parents
My
have
dad
an
had one.
8-track player?
My dad had one when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, we had one growing up. We had, like, one of those
Yeah.
old, big, like, bulky stereos that probably came from Sears, and it had a tape deck on it, it had a turntable, and it had a 8-track.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, if somebody gave me an Edison cylinder, I'd probably know what that was too. But that's just because I'm a music guy.
I don't even know what that is. What is an Edison
The
cylinder?
Edison, the I think Thomas Edison supposedly invented the original sound reproduction device, which was the Edison cylinder, which was like a wax tube
Okay.
or a tube with wax around the outside, and there was like sound grooves engraved into the wax, and that would somehow reproduce the tones.
Wild,
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, that's a new one for me. So, we should talk about what you've been doing lately. You put out a song recently, earlier this year, right? Maybe in January, that has gone viral in certain circles?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it has.
So you did a song called "Fall on Your Sword, Mr. Fauci."
That's correct.
Um, and it's interesting you say you titled it Mr. Fauci and not Dr. Fauci. But this song has gotten, the video has gotten over 158,000 views. I mean, look at this. This is, on banned.video. I don't even
Right.
know if maybe this video will get banned from even saying banned.video on YouTube, but, it's so wild, dude. It's incredible.
I didn't expect it. I was really pleasantly surprised that it got that much attention. I have to credit Greg Reese for that because I think Greg Reese has a quite a following on his band.video channel, and he created the video that went along with it.
And banned.video, it's like the video streaming platform of InfoWars, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Greg Reese, is Greg Reese the guy that he narrates a bunch of videos, and he's just got that beautiful, like, that rich narrator's voice? Is that Greg?
I think that's what you're thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has it's the Reese Report is
Okay.
his thing,
Yeah, I mean, he's just got
and
such a good, voiceover, like, documentary voiceover voice.
he's really
It's
good. Yeah,
perfect.
he's really good. And apparently, and I didn't expect this at all, Jones actually got wind of the video and started posting it on like Infowars breaks.
Oh, snap, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's,
That's
think what you want about Alex Jones. I don't, I have mixed feelings myself, but still,
man,
that was,
the man is a legend at this
yeah,
point, you know? So that's rad
yeah,
that he's been playing the song, man. That's so cool.
yeah.
So have you noticed any change, any difference, things happening for you or way people reacting to you now that this song's hit almost 160,000 streams or views of the video?
One thing that happened to me, which is really, really amazing, is that I got an email from an airline pilot who has a group called Freedom Flyers,
Okay.
and they're pilots that are not interested in taking the jab, and they want to be free to do their jobs without medical interference. And this guy Mike contacted me and said, "We love your Fauci song. Would you be interested in writing a song for the pilots, or about the pilots?" And I said, "Absolutely, I would love to do that." So that's in the works. It's in the pipeline. We
That's
don't have a
awesome,
we don't
man.
have a time frame yet, but we've definitely been in discussion about it. So that was the first thing that happened. I thought that was within days of the song dropping.
And is that, an organization comprised of pilots from all around the world, or is that based in, like, one country?
I believe it's US based.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's expanded to other countries or not.
Have you
But
seen the latest clip of Fauci that's been making the rounds? It looks like it came from some PBS documentary or news segment because, I've just been seeing everybody on my feed sharing it, and it's basically Fauci going door to door with the mayor of Washington, DC, and going around, like, the inner city communities and knocking on people's door to get them to take the injection.
somebody sent that to me yesterday, and I didn't realize that was a recent video.
I think it's from 2021, it's just
Okay,
but,
okay,
like,
yeah, yeah.
now, I don't for some reason, we were just seeing it now, which is very
Suddenly
odd.
just came out. It like yeah, it just I was just disgusted to see that they were going around to the inner city neighborhoods trying to convince them to get
But the best part of that
like
video is that guy that just
the guy just
owns
tells them
him.
right off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he just, like, decimates him.
And they just walk away.
Yeah.
There's just nothing they can do.
Yeah, it's just like, "Okay, well, I guess we're not convincing you," and I think there's, like, an earlier clip, that precedes that where, like, Fauci's basically saying, like, "It's all Republicans. That's these people that are reluctant. They just, they don't wanna do what they're told, and, they just don't listen." And it's like, "Yeah, I'm sure that you're in the inner city black communities. It's just full of
Full of
just
Republicans.
full of
Yeah.
redneck
Notoriously
Republicans."
Republicans.
Of course, that's, but yeah,
This
that
is where
the
this is
video
where
of that guy owning him is just brilliant, man. It's
it's really yeah, it's really wonderful. And he's extremely eloquent and he just sticks to his guns and it's great to watch.
and,
Um
yeah, speaking of people being distrusting of the government and willing to stand up to authority, I mean, that's what musicians used to do. I'm glad that you're still one of the few doing that, keeping that tradition alive.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. And it takes courage these days, even though I feel like people are getting maybe it's a little more comfortable kinda speaking out and, kinda realizing that the last few years have been insane, and,
Yeah,
you
it's
know
funny. It's almost becoming mainstream now to criticize what happened in the last 3 years.
I hope so. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
There's now we're on the Raccoon Dogs, which if I start a new band, that's gonna be the name of my band,
Raccoon
Ra
dogs?
Raccoon Dogs.
I haven't heard about raccoon dogs.
Oh,
Is it
well,
worth
that's
talking about?
not really.
Okay.
You can look it up later.
Okay.
It's the newest, like, narrative spin, like, it didn't come from pangolins, it was now, raccoon dogs from the wet market or something. So, listening to your albums, I realize, like, 1 and I've known this for years, like, because you and I have been friends for decades now, which will be a surprise to people watching because 'cause they're like, "These guys are in their early 20s. How could
Exactly.
they must have known each other as newborns," and that they would be right. Um, but this is how far back we go, Jude. Check this out. I got a little surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
Check this out, man. Do you remember this?
Oh my god.
Do you remember playing this house
Yes.
show somewhere in Los Angeles? I don't remember where it was, and, somebody gave me this ridiculous pink scarf that I wore for that night for some reason.
And you're playing I believe you're playing my Gibson Dove.
I am, dude. That is a beautiful guitar. Playing your Dove is what inspired
Sitting right
me.
here.
Is that what you still have in your hand, or
No, I'm playing a Guild right now, but that Dove is right here. There it is.
beautiful? Such a beautiful
Same
guitar.
guitar. Same guitar in that picture. Yeah, it's a gorgeous guitar.
Yeah, I think pl playing your Dove made me want to get one of my own, so I ended up, buying one from a friend up in Alaska in, like, 2006 or 7, and it's, like, my go-to acoustic.
I thought I saw you playing a Dove in the intro picture, so that was what that was.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a 19 I wanna say it's a late '60s, it's like a
Oh wow.
1967 or something Dove.
That's amazing. Mine's 97. It's still great, but the 60s models off the hook.
I mean, it's just beautiful guitars.
Yeah.
Um, the I'll just tell the story real fast about my dove. So, I think it was in 2007, I did a small tour of Alaska. It was kind of like in a little acoustic tour with a friend of mine that I had, who lives up there. Is a local singer-songwriter up at Anchorage named Jared Woods. And Jared, like, we did this, like, shared bill and played a couple different places, Anchorage, Wasilla, some other places up there. It was beautiful. And then when I was there, Jared had this beautiful dove, and he was like, "Man, I'm trying to downsize my collection." The whole story about and it was in mint condition, perfect. Apparently, it was this woman whose husband was a musician, and he passed away, and she just put it up in the attic, and it just sat, like, untouched for years and years, and she ended
In a
up,
case,
like
I hope.
yeah, just in the
Yeah.
case and
Yeah.
beautiful, and, I mean, I guess it was enough, like, humidity and everything, it was controlled or wherever it was, but it was, like, in mint condition. She sells it to Jared. I end up buying it from him. I fly back to Atlanta. I have it for about a year, and, I'm playing some little Irish pub in Atlanta. Me and my guitar player rocking around. We're doing a cover of "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey, and we collide into each other, and the top of the headstock of his telly goes right into the underside of my Dove and
Oh.
punctures a hole right through it.
Oh.
I was devastated.
Oh my God.
Fortunately, I took it to, like, the best luthier in the state, and
Hmm.
dude completely, like, reset it, um, and it's like it never even happened. I mean, there's, like, they couldn't match the paint, but it's, like, on the underside, so you can't really see it unless I, like, you to hold up, the guitar,
Wow.
but it was just like, man, this guitar was so loved and hidden away, and I had it for, like, a year, and I put a hole in it.
Yeah, I
It
had
still sounds
mine.
great.
Mine got knocked off. I had it. I had a place where I didn't have a lot of storage space, so, and there were some rafters, and I put a piece of plywood across the rafters, and I had my guitar stashed on the plywood, and one of my cats just knocked it off, and it was in a soft case at the time,
Mm,
and I see it on the floor when I come in the door, and I almost had a heart attack at that point, and then I was like, okay, it was in a soft case. This is probably going to be fine, because it's a pretty decent case. And I open it up, and there's a giant split along the side, and that got actually repaired, and it's still doing okay.
yeah,
But
I mean, it's
a
amazing what these guys can do,
good
like, you
luthier can heal just about anything.
it
They're pretty
really is
amazing.
amazing. I've had, like, pieces of my telly kinda, like, start breaking off, and they've been able to reset it, and they put, like, epoxy or something, and they buff
Yeah,
it out. I mean, these guys are artists.
yeah,
But
really
anyway,
important.
we talked about how far back we go, right? So, we first
So
met,
that
like,
house party, yeah.
yeah, back to that house party in early 2000s, and, but, I've known since then, like, you're an amazing singer-songwriter, amazing, finger picker when it comes to playing guitar. I mean, you just are able to do this just amazing folk finger picking. I
Thanks, man.
yeah, man, and people can hear that listening to your stuff, but, like, so when did you first start playing music, and when did you first start learning and developing that finger picking style?
So the Travis picking started in college. I started playing music when I was much younger than that. In fact, my mother tells me that I was singing when I was still in my crib, like somewhere between 6 months and a year. She played Joan Baez records and Bob Dylan records, and I'd try to sing along with them. I'd start imitating the sounds, and they figured out that I really liked to sing, and then my dad started giving me piano lessons when I was around 5, and I started to learn how to play the piano, and then they started giving me voice lessons when I was around 8 or 9. Took voice lessons all through my voice change and on into becoming a young tenor, and then I ended up, so by the time I was in high school, I was playing the piano. I had picked up the electric bass. Um, I was taking voice lessons, and I taught myself how to play guitar. And at that point, all I could really do was strum. But it was very clear that I was going to go to music school. So I ended up going to Boston Conservatory my first 2 years of college. And it was there that I had a roommate who's still one of my best friends, who was a classical guitar major. And I was listening to Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, and I couldn't figure out what the pattern was that made those sounds. Let's see if I can. Um, so there was like he was doing stuff like this. If you're traveling the North Country Fair, where the winds hit heavy on the borderline. And I couldn't figure out how he did that. So my classical guitar playing housemate comes into the room and says, "You want to learn how to do that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "You got to use your thumb on two strings. So your thumb is bouncing around. I'll take the guitar up so you can see what I'm doing, right? Your thumb's doing this."
Yeah, you're getting that alternating those bass notes
Yeah,
with
and
your
that's a
thumb.
essential part of Travis picking. That's what they call Travis picking, right? The other fingers are moving in between. So I started really it took me a long time to get it too, but I started really, really working it every single day. First I just started with the thumb over and over again.
Mhm.
When you get your thumb used to that, then you can figure out where the other fingers go and your brain kind of puts it all together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely dabble. I can finger pick a little bit, but I definitely have not refined, uh, and mastered Travis picking. There's actually a song on our new EP that's coming out on April 14th that I finger pick. Um, so yeah, I just kind of like have an idea of what I'm doing, and I just kinda I do it well enough to get the song and accompany myself, but it's definitely something I would like to refine and get better. There's
Is
always room for an improvement.
Yeah, always. I mean, I wish that I were a better soloist. I can barely take a solo, and it's very basic for me.
Oh, man, just
But
blues pentatonic. I'll just rock anything in a blues
yeah,
pentatonic.
yeah, that's pretty much all I do
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's like, but yeah, Travis picking is something. All these things, you could sit in front of a TV, not even paying attention, and just be practicing it. Not that you would necessarily want to be watching TV, but you
Yeah,
could.
you could. Alright, so you started playing really young, and you started getting, like, training at a very young age too, which is
Yeah,
super cool. Um, and so you said your mom would play Joan Baez and Bob Dylan records when you were a baby.
yeah.
Were your parents musically inclined, or they're just music lovers?
They were both musically inclined. My mom also played guitar, and she taught me my first couple of chords. And then I just took the chord chart and I taught myself the rest, and over time. But yeah, she used to play. There's this one song she always played called "Tramp on the Street." That's a really, really great little folk song. And yeah, she would play a lot of Joan Baez songs and things like that. And my dad was a classical pianist,
Oh,
and he was
okay.
really, really good at it.
Yeah, man, so
The
music
concert level.
music's in your blood.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't stand a chance of not being a musician.
Yeah, it's cool, man. If I have a kid, I'm definitely gonna get him started early, on the
Yeah,
musical path, 'cause I wish I would've started earlier. I found music in my teens, and it really helped me. I was going through some dark stuff, and, rock and roll saved my life.
yeah.
It really did. Like, music just has it's magical. It can unite people, it can bring people together across different backgrounds, and it can heal, it can be a catharsis, and I think music is just a magical force.
And I think it still has to be that. And it's
Yes.
it's our job to continue to bring that into the realm of music, because it's trying to leave, and we got to stop that from happening. You know, that visceral feeling that you got from an analog record, like we got to bring that back into the way we create music and bring it out into the world. And we need to be saying something.
100% agree. Yeah, and most music these days, most mainstream music, I don't think has much to say, or it's just seemingly just trying to dumb people down.
Digitized it gets, I think the worse it is. Not that I mean there is some electronic music that I've heard that I really like. You know, I listen to Imogen Heap.
Mhm,
You know, there are some people that do really wonderful things with electronic music, but you know, Nine Inch Nails. But
mhm.
you know, when it comes down to it, there's a soullessness about pop music and electronic music these days that is just I think it's just getting worse and worse.
Well, and there's just so much you can do now digitally that you could have it just wasn't cost effective or time effective, to do in the past. Even though,
Yeah.
like, on those old Simon and Garfunkel records, I mean, they did edits, they did splice different takes together.
Hmm.
It's, and, like, a dude with a razor blade and some tape had to literally, like, make those cuts just
Right.
right and tape it, to the other piece of tape and feed it through the machine.
If
But
you
now it's like you can do that with a couple clicks of the mouse and, highlight the waveform, and so it's tempting to, like, make everything super perfect, but if you make it too perfect, then it loses all its soul,
I
you
have
know?
I have a thing about really trying, and it doesn't always work, but I really try to get songs in one take if I can, or you know, if I can do multiple takes, but I'll try to only use one, or maybe
Mm.
two at the most. But I just have a thing about like really wanting to get the take that actually works, and
Yeah, I mean, and I think that comes across in all the recordings I've heard of yours. I mean, just feel really warm and organic, like, it feels like you're just in the room with
thanks.
a
Yeah,
guy playing making music. And all the
yeah,
players that you have on those 2 albums I mentioned earlier, Stained Glass, Afterglow, and Perfect Shell, like, they're just great players. Like, there's some, awesome pedal steel on those, and,
yeah.
like, who and great guitar, like, some really tasty guitar. I forget which song I was listening to today, but it had just, like, this really beautiful electric guitar part. Who was your band, or who were the musicians on those albums? Like, just
So on Perfect Shell, it was really simple. It was just myself and Rob Stein, who is an amazing pedal steel player who lives in the Woodstock area. And yeah, that album is pretty much all him. The also the electric guitar parts and the solo acoustic guitar parts were him. But the pedal steel was really, I feel like the pedal steel was such an integral part of those songs. And my friend Julie Parisi Kirby is doing some background vocals on there. And then the rest of it is just me doing overdubs. But the takes themselves on Perfect Shell are all like one take. They were
that's
done
awesome, man.
actually done before a live audience. We had a live audience come into the studio, so I had like six people in front of me, so I could actually play to somebody.
It
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 worked
it
out.
does make a
Yeah,
difference, man, right?
yeah,
Like, you have somebody to connect with, and it also kind of raises the stakes a little bit,
yeah,
um,
for
which
sure.
probably helps, you get it in 1 or 2 takes instead of being like, "Okay, 30 more takes to go.
Exactly. It's
Get
like I
comfortable."
got to get it right this time, and we did a couple of them twice through, but that was it. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, we touched on it a little bit, about how, it seems like a lot of modern music, or a lot of at least mainstream music, it just feels soulless and doesn't feel like it is really saying anything. And what was the last newer song that you heard that moved you, that
Ooh,
grabbed you, and you felt like it moved you to some kind of emotion?
I have to think about that. Um, I listen to a lot of old songs actually, and I go back and I cycle through, and it's funny like the YouTube feed on my phone. So I'm not advocating YouTube at all, but you know, I use it to listen to music sometimes because it just
This would
like
probably be on YouTube, likely.
yeah. Yeah, well, I hate YouTube. No. Uh
Oh, yeah, at one point, we'll have to talk about how the last song that we collaborated on before Tears Are Rolling Down was "Do Not Comply," which
right.
is banned from YouTube.
Still.
Uh, yeah, since while we're on the subject, why not? I'll just,
Yeah.
there is a YouTube safe version, and I will play it for you real quick, and
Okay.
then yeah, this is the YouTube safe version. This is approved for YouTube.
Brilliant.
So I'm so glad that that worked because I did one of these live streams. I know we're pre-recording this, but I did a live stream with Brad from 5 Times August, and I played that, and I was hoping to get that reaction from him. And if for some reason he couldn't see the video, so after it played, he was just like, "Oh, I didn't see it," and it was like the joke was completely lost. So
Oh no,
I had to do it again on one of these.
that
So
worked
thank you.
beautifully. That worked beautifully, and I'm surprised at how short the song is.
Yeah, it
It's
really
like,
when you edit out all the things that are controversial and, are spreading medical misinformation, as YouTube says, then it's a really short song. It's
yeah.
15 seconds and done.
I I gotta ask you, what do you think of the Woody Harrelson thing?
I think it's awesome. I've always liked Woody Harrelson, and I think it's killer that, that message is getting out, a message of, like, how insane the last few years have been. And I thought it was clever, like, how he kept leading up to it in the monologue, and that was, like, the big the punchline at the end was the script where all the pharmaceutical companies, buy all the media, and then they, get the government to lock people in their homes until they come out and take the drug companies' medicine. I mean, that's true. I
Yeah,
mean, we
yeah.
we see yeah, and I think it's great that that message gets out there. I know, people in the more kind of alternative lifestyles or the truth or community or whatever, they just wanna see controlled opposition in everything and anybody, especially somebody that's been in Hollywood, but it's just nice to see somebody speaking out, and you don't have to agree with everything somebody does or every position that they hold
Mhm, mhm.
to still think like, "Oh, that was cool that, somebody that he said that."
Yeah, I share your feelings on that. I feel pretty much the same way. Like there was a part of me that was searching for the deeper meaning. Is like, wait, is there something going on? Was he allowed to do this because it's serving somebody's best interest? And I was like, Jude, just enjoy it for what it is. Like, it's, this
Yeah.
is a really good. I really like Woody Harrelson. I like his acting.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he just did something that was brave, and he was speaking his mind. And I think he also probably realizes that he's not going to lose his career over it. Um,
No, no, but, at the same time too, he's been working in that industry while, that industry is one of the few that has still kept all the mandates in place.
yeah,
So whether you're a grip or you're a PA or you're an extra or you work in the art department in a production office, you have to, some places are still requiring proof
yeah,
of the injection, and pretty much all of them are still requiring like testing, regular testing, whether
right.
it's daily or weekly. Um, so it's like if he's still been working during that, it's like he must be either using a fake card or doing something. I mean, I know he's got clout. Maybe when you just show up and you're Woody Harrelson, and you're like, "Hey, man, I was in the Hunger Games. Hey, man, I was on Cheers.
I, I've
I don't need to show you anything." But I mean, those rules are applying to everybody else in that industry still.
I've heard somebody say that rich people, like really really uber wealthy people, were partying the entire time. They were having like
Well, I'm sure, dude.
raging parties. Nobody cared about vaccination, COVID testing, any of that. So it's like really about like what you can afford to get away with in a lot of ways.
Well, and it was also it affected it was like class war, right?
Yeah.
It was a war upon the poor people. If you lived in a 600 square foot, studio apartment or one-bedroom apartment and you couldn't leave your home or you were gonna get arrested going to the beach or whatever, or breaking curfew, which is insane to think about, but that was happening in some places. Um, yeah, your life sucked, but if you had a mansion and you have your own gym on site and you've got your own swimming pool, your infinity pool that looks out onto, Hollywood up in the hills, it wasn't that bad. I mean, you could have everything you need in your home.
Yeah.
So and now we're seeing those headlines that are acknowledging that, and even mainstream media acknowledging the harms that the lockdowns did, the harms that not just like like the physical and psychological tolls and economic tolls that it took.
And I'm
It's
like, but we were saying this from the beginning. What the hell did they think was going to happen? You know,
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like,
it's just astounding what you can get people to do when you scare them enough.
yep.
You put them in such a state of constant fear and hysteria. And what happens when people are so detached and removed from physical reality that they believe a reality they see on a screen more than they believe the reality they see with their own eyes.
And that is something that wouldn't always have been true, but it's
Mm-mm.
definitely true now. Yep. Because
100%.
there's been so much conditioning over such a long period of time.
And people just spend so much time. I mean, here we are. We're criticizing the world of screens and internets and all that, and
And here we
we're
are on a
talking to each
screen,
other
right?
on screens. I mean, there are positives of it, right? There it does give people the ability the internet allows people to collaborate across continents, like, our new album, which you're on, but, we recorded while you were actually here in Georgia with us, but, almost every other song has, like, a guest musician that was in, like, another country or another part of the
Hmm.
world, or another part of the United States, and that was only able we were able to do that because of digital technology and the internet. So, it's cool
Yeah.
on that respect, but I just think the cons of all the technology outweigh the pros, personally.
I know. Like if you were given a choice between being able to do that or throwing it all away, like what would you do? Would you throw out the baby with the bathwater?
I just wanna go back to, like, the '80s,
Right.
Like, I was just a little kid, but I think the '80s would've been awesome. Like, I kinda fantasize sometimes about what it would be like if, like, me and my wife were just starting our life together in the '80s.
Yeah.
Just, like, no internet, no cell phones. Like, if you had a cell phone, you had, like, one of those giant, like, Zach Morris cell phones from or you had to have,
Yeah.
like, a car phone, right? And you had to be, like, super rich for that.
Yeah.
Like, you had to be, like, a guy that would, like, wears a sweater, like, tied in a knot, like, over his shoulder and in a
All,
convertible to have a mobile phone at that
all
point.
the all the drug dealers in my school had car phones because that was their status symbol. Like I make enough money to have a car phone.
And it was one of those giant brick ones?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like giant thing that was like attached to your car. And there was a giant antenna on top of the car.
Yeah, but so that would be the answer. I wanna go back there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you still and also there wasn't all this polarization. Like, America like, think about the '80s movies, right? Like, I love going back and I'll watch '80s movies. You've got, like, Rocky 4, you've got, Red Dawn. Like, all
Hmm.
of it was like, it's us against like, there was this thing that bonded America together, for better or for worse, like, I think patriotism and nationalism obviously has, a darker side and can be negative taken to extremes,
Yeah,
but
some of it was propaganda for sure.
100%, all that Cold War propaganda, but there was just something about, like, yeah, that we hated the Russians, but we loved our neighbor. Like, we were in this together, Democrat or
Yeah.
Republican or whatever your party affiliation or political affiliation was. We were in this together genuinely, and there was something like, there are values that we could agree upon and things about America that we loved, and even the people that were, like, critical of it, there was still kind of a love of America
Yeah.
and, a hope that things were just gonna keep getting better, and now we don't have that, unfortunately. We have just, like, constant polarization, everything's divisive.
Maybe that's where the real chasm started was in the 80s. That split, that real divisive split where it suddenly became all about identity politics. And it is a masterstroke, really, in
I think
terms
it
of
happened I
power
think it was
brokers.
later. I think it was more like the 2000s.
Yeah.
But, we saw things of, like we saw the othering of people happening a lot during the Bush years, the Bush, George W. years,
Yeah,
and,
for
like,
sure.
anybody that didn't support the homeland was a terrorist. That was kind of the beginning of it. It's so crazy to think about because that's how you and I met. It was in
Hmm.
the anti-war movement during that period of the early 2000s, and it's just so wild to see how things have changed so drastically, especially
That
the
was
the voices on the left have just, things that you now have people that will consider themselves leftists, and their support they're calling for war. They're cheering on the war in Ukraine. They want to funnel more money into it. They want more, uh, it's wild, man.
It's really the same, and that was the propaganda machine in back when we were in Not in Our Name
Mhm.
and active against the Iraq invasion. It was the propaganda machine was it was that overly simplistic. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And it was so stupid we could all see through it, and now the left is doing the same thing. If you don't agree with us, then you must be a right winger.
Yeah,
Like, if you
exactly.
don't agree on this issue and
Even
all the other issues,
right, even
then
if you're a working class,
yeah,
African American man in the inner city of DC, you must be a redneck Republican.
exactly.
If
Yeah.
you don't agree with the, whatever the government narrative is.
My cat has come to visit me.
Oh, I was wondering, I heard the door creak.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cats do that too.
Yeah.
They're very resourceful, clever little creatures. Anyway, getting back, I wanted you could not think of the last song, like a newer song that moved you, or and I have to say, I just recently discovered a band called Gang of Youths, or Gang of Utes if you're, my cousin Vinny. Uh, but I think they're from Australia, and
Yeah.
I think they put out an album earlier this year. It's called Angel in Real Time, and it's just this beautiful album it's like written as a eulogy basically to the singer's, father who passed away.
Oh
And
wow.
it's just like, one, I think it's badass to write a whole album about your dad. Like, especially now, like, we live in a time where, like, men are just, like, crapped upon left and right, and there's just no, reverence, I think, anymore, especially for dads,
Right.
and fathers,
Yeah.
and so to write, like, a whole album about your dad, I think is, like, a baller thing to do, and then 2, it's like the album is, like, full he, like, shows his father, like, warts and all, it, like, gets into all kinds of stuff, like how his father had a dual life, like, or had a life before he started the family that produced him, like, he was married before and, like, had kids with other women and then, like, left a kid at the hospital, like, it shows his father with all his warts and all, and it's just a beautiful record, man. No, one
And so
song on
all
that
of that is written into the songs.
written into the songs.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a track called Brothers on that album that, like, literally I was getting choked up listening to it, and it's just the main dude, the singer-songwriter of the band, I don't recall his name, but just playing piano, and he just sings this whole song about, like, his family and goes through, like, the half brothers that he connected with that he never even knew existed, and finding out about all this stuff about his father's past, now that he's deceased, and it's kind of like a way to still keep his father close to him. It's beautiful. I
Wow.
highly recommend it. So there's still great music being made. We're just not hearing it
Yeah.
on any of the mainstream outlets.
And it's funny, when you ask me that question, and I'm sure there's something, I'm just not thinking of it at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I go through things in rotation, and I have a very, very eclectic, I have very eclectic taste in music. I will go and I'll get on a tear listening to traditional Greek music because I have a real thing for Greece and the Greek language, and I've been studying it, and I love their folk music. So for a while I get on a tear like listening to traditional Greek music, rebettica, things like that, and then I'll end up with like James Taylor, and then I'll listen to Queen, and because I want to hear Brian May's guitar riffs, and like it just bounces all over the place. I go for classical pieces sometimes, and um, yeah, I mean, there is still great music out there for sure.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a lot of
it's
great music out
so
there.
great with, like, when you discover something new that, like, moves you. What's the newest thing? What are you working on now? What's the next thing for Jude Roberts? You got a new
Uh,
song coming out? You have a new record? What's in the works?
so yeah, I've been recording some little videos in my house just to kind of, I have kind of notoriously weak video on my web presence, so I want to fix that. And I've been recording some videos. So I just recorded a song called Vapor and Crumb, which is one of my favorite newer songs that I wrote. Actually finished it last year, but I started it in 2020, right after the COVID bullshit started.
And has the song been released yet?
It's not been released. It's going to be on a full length record. I'm going to be recording a full length record in May. And it looks like I'm going to be working with Mike and Miranda from Mike and Ruthie. They have a band called the Mammals,
Okay, cool,
and
man.
we're really great musicians, and they have a beautiful studio. Mike's a great engineer, good friend of mine, great songwriter. So that's coming up, and that's supposed to happen in late May. And that album will drop probably sometime in, I'm guessing it'll probably drop in July
Of this year.
after all. Yeah.
Oh,
That's what,
that's quick, man.
that's what I'm hoping to do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you're.
the best laid plans, but
I know.
that's my goal.
I wanted to have Into the Light Volume 2 out like last year, so I would have put out like both sides in the same year.
Yeah.
It's just so hard, and coordinating with like band members and other people's schedules, and this, and our
Yeah.
engineers' schedule is just like just too difficult.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
It takes time.
but I'm stoked kind of how we broke it up, and it's like I think the songs from part one that were like more the protest and songs, and more of the songs looking to the external world, and a full band like rock songs, and was volume one, and like volume two is like kind of the softer side, more introspective, which Tears
Yeah.
Rolling Down is like the last track of the record. So I think it works out the way it did. But speaking of your new tune, do you want to play it for us live since you got the
Yeah, I'll play it
guitar?
for you.
All
Yeah,
right.
why not? Since the audio seems to be working really well, so
Yeah, man, it
that's
sounds
great.
great over here.
I'll just start with a little bit of an introduction to this song. It's called Vapor and Crumb, and it's a look back to London of the Industrial Revolution and the type of corporate serfdom that developed during that period. And it's also a cautionary tale looking forward to what could happen as we goose step into a digital slave state. The song I think comes across as kind of dark, but there's some hope in here. I don't think that we have to go in that direction. And the vapor is, vapor and crumb, meaning if you don't have enough water, then you get vapor. If you don't have enough food, you're left with only the crumbs. Vapor and crumb, look how we scramble for whatever comes. The children all are hungry, the fire's burning cold. Dark are the eyes, bitter the tongue, living on nothing but vapor and crumb. Hard to build your palace in the slums. And they're putting up wires in the east, putting out fires in the west. I put on these rags before sunrise, and I put all my dreams to rest. And I come home late at night with soot on my face. A man of my station always knows his place. Vapor and crumb, trawling the depths, hauling the scum. Once they had to watch us, now we keep ourselves in line. Notions we had, songs that we sung, melted and smashed into vapor and crumb. Cries of freedom die upon the lung. And they tell us the plague is coming. We know it's already here. It seeps from our stoves, it's baked into loaves. It feeds on anger and fear. There's poison in the water and in the air. Poison in the mind and death everywhere. And the gas lamp on the rain-swept streets almost gleams like gold. These streets are paved with good intentions, at least that's what I'm told. And I crawl through naked alleys in a city I once knew. I can't tell if anything is true. Vapor and crumb, vapor and crumb, famine for many and banquet for some. Or I could take the royal coin and march behind the drum. But what would they do? My children are young, hoping for better than vapor and crumb. They still believe that we shall overcome. And you can see the shackles, but still we live like slaves. There ain't no hero coming now, there's no one left to save. But I'll take them to the mountains, we'll take our chances there. Maybe somewhere we can breathe the air. Heaven knows where. Vapor and crumb, vapor and crumb.
So good. That was awesome, man. Killer tune.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vapor and Crumb also would be like a great band name. Sounds like some cool hipster band. Vapor.
Right, it is. It's totally a hipster name. Did you ever see the hipster generator? They have this thing online where it just like basically pairs really unusual words together, and to make a hipster title. So like a restaurant like Feather and Weight or something like that.
There you go. That is a great restaurant. That sounds fancy, dude. Sounds like I can't afford to eat there.
Right.
I have been messing around with Chat GPT. Have you played around with it at all?
No.
But you know what it is, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Tell me.
Well, it's this new AI that basically it can write code. It can it's I guess it's still like in its beta testing or something. It's like open to the public.
Okay.
And so like all kinds of people have been, you can ask it to, like, you're building a website and you're like, I can't figure out how to make this one thing work. What is the code that I'm missing? And it will write code for you. You It obviously has a bias. It already has kind of like a mainstream bias. Like I've asked it questions of like, like, was 9/11 an inside job? And it gives you like the official story.
Oh, really?
I did ask it who killed JFK, and it said it was it wasn't conclusive. It There were multiple theories, and the official story doesn't seem to add up with physics. Something to that effect. I was
we're
like,
getting
"Whoa,
somewhere."
we are getting somewhere. I asked it to write songs, right? So everyone's like convinced like this thing is coming in a few years. Like this is gonna just make all kinds of jobs obsolete, especially maybe in like the coding world, so the laptop class might really take a hit here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to put welders out of job yet. It's not putting roofers and
No.
plumbers out of a job or any of those people, but it might put people that sit, write code or data entry out of jobs real fast. But anyway, I asked it to write a song in the style of The Doors. I asked it to write a song in the style of Rage Against the Machine, and it won't write the music, but it'll write lyrics.
Uh-huh.
And I have to say, we're good. Like this thing, it can write clever lyrics and it can rhyme, but it's lame, dude. It's got no, you can tell this is a robot writing it. But it's almost like the lyrics are about as good as what you would hear, like, on mainstream country. Like, I bet you could put in, like, write a Sam Hunt song, and it would spit out probably something that you could hear
Yeah.
on modern country.
Interesting. What do you think about, do you feel like AI is much more developed than is being is being let out as common knowledge? Like,
100%. Yep.
okay.
Yeah, I think all
You
the technology that we get, like, we get it after it's existed for however
right.
who knows how long.
Right.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think they're probably, like, trickling it out, getting people more comfortable with it.
Exactly, right. But there's probably already somebody that can completely fool you into. I mean, I think Corbett even did something on a broadcast about how Google has a newscaster that looks exactly like a real person, sounds like a real person.
Yeah, I mean, who
Uh,
knows? I mean, who knows what is even real anymore? And with the deep fake technology, I mean, it's
yeah.
insane. And that's just the stuff, like you said, that we're seeing. So, like, how good are the deep fakes that we don't know? Or, like, there could be stuff that we see and we believe that it's not even real. Like, we might not even be
Yeah.
real. This might be a deep fake of us.
Well, I was just gonna say, one thing we can definitely be assured of is that you and I are not AI.
It's yes, pinch myself.
It's
Ow.
like,
Yeah.
wait, well, let me get the chip out of my
We're still
neck.
here. Um,
Yeah,
well, we've been talking for a while, so we should probably wrap it up. But it's always great, man, to connect with you. And once again, thank you for being a part of our new album. You're both on volume 1 with Do Not Comply, singing beautiful harmonies on
that's
that.
great. Yeah,
And then you're on Tears Rolling Down, which is the album closer on volume 2. And it's you kind of help like bookend the albums for me. So
yeah,
and it's great that we've stayed in touch throughout all these years, and we reconnected, and then we're able to collaborate, man. It's just I'm feel very grateful about that.
yeah. Same here. I'm really proud to be on your record. I think your songs are beautiful. I think your writing's great. I think your production values are exquisite, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks, brother. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. I'll have to mail you a CD because I made like a
yeah.
limited edition CD. I'll send you one. Where can people find you?
The best place to find me is my website, which is juderoberts.com.
And
I
people
do
can
have
get
a,
all your music right there.
yep, you can get everything you need right there, including the Fauci song. But you have to poke around a little bit to find it, but it's there.
It's there.
Yeah,
That's the way to
you
do
can
it,
find
man.
it.
I
Yeah,
just put all of I'm in the process of getting all our albums on faithlesstown.com
yeah,
because, with crazy stuff, when you trust these platforms, they can just boot you at any time and all your stuff disappears. But if you're at least controlling your website,
yeah. As we spoke about a few weeks ago, it seems like Bandcamp is now controlled, and that was a go-to for a while for
yeah,
me.
Bandcamp
But
really has marketed itself as being like, the independent musicians platform, and it,
yeah,
it it shared the greatest share of the revenue with artists, and it made it like an easy thing for bands to utilize to sell their music and their merch. And yeah, now they're banning. They deleted my friend Brad from Five Times August. They
yeah,
have deleted Tim Pool, um, some Bryson Gray, I think, who's like a conservative rapper. So yeah, it's wild, man, and it's crazy that all we're seeing that censorship in music because, like we were saying earlier, music should be about uniting people, And none of these people are putting out songs with a hateful message.
I suppose my Fauci song could be viewed as hateful in a way.
I've seen the
Sort
comments
of
on
like
you on that video, and everyone's like most of them are like, "It's too nice of a song for."
because I went with satire instead of directly screaming at him.
I will tell you though, what you need to do with that song is you need to write a whole musical around it. You should write like Pandemic, the musical.
You know what's really funny? The gentleman I spoke of earlier, who's an airline pilot and asked me
Mhm.
to write a song with Freedom Flyers,
Yeah.
said, I would like to be a part of funding a musical that you write about the whole thing. And
Dude, it's
it'd
just
be
that
like
style of
COVID
music.
1984, the musical, or something like that. Yeah,
You should totally do it. I would love to collaborate too, man. Maybe if I could
that'd be
get like a
great.
rock song on there, I'll do kind of like a Who, like Tommy type thing.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I'd love
Yeah.
that. Let's totally do that.
'Cause
That's great.
what is the style of music? What would you what is the genre of Fall on Your Sword, Mr. Fauci?
I
Is it
would
like
call
a
it,
vaudeville, like,
yeah,
uh
it's sort of English music hall. It's a little bit of Queen, a little bit of the Beatles, a little bit Gilbert and Sullivan. If you ever watched like Pirates of Penzance or The Mikado or any of those, so these are operettas from the late 1800s that were very popular English writers, Gilbert and Sullivan,
So, yeah, I
and
mean, that's what
yeah,
it's like a stage
yeah,
musical song, man, so you
yeah,
should totally
yeah.
we should I'm down to help. I would love to collaborate with you on that.
That'd be
Because when I heard
great.
that song, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, man, this would be great in a musical," and, like, do a whole musical about the last few years, make a satire of it and, take really dark subject matter and kind of find some levity in it, and
I think that's the only way to get the message across and really get people to internalize what's happened to them because they've been so traumatized for the last 3 years. People have just been beaten up. And
it's
the
true.
way that you get people to understand what's happened to them, I think, is through satire. It's the most effective form of opposition.
I agree. Any upcoming shows that you wanna plug?
Oh, what's happening? Well, they're in my area, but there is a show at Art Society of Kingston in Kingston, New York,
Okay.
March 31st at 7 p.m. It's a really nice small art gallery. Should be a really nice show. Vassar College on April 18th. I'm going to be playing with Songs of Survivors. We remember Songs of Survivors, the musicians from that documentary that I was part of
I mean, we didn't even get
from
to
last
talk
year.
about that.
I
We'll have to get
know.
into that next time.
Yeah, we can. Well, we'll have to talk again.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so April 18th, and yeah, then I might be going to Sicily in June with I play bass for the Dust Bowl Fairies, as you know, and when they're doing their trio arrangement. So we're looking at going to Sicily in June and possibly doing a film project out there. So I got a lot of stuff on. I got so many balls in the air that some of them are I can't catch them.
Man, you're staying busy. That's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
yeah.
Well, I wish you just all the success in the world and good luck with all that stuff and playing Vassar College. That's awesome. And you get to go to Sicily and play music. I mean, yeah,
I'm doing it live, man. Living the dream.
you really are living the dream. Uh, I will say that we're about to get busy. We just got added to this bill of this festival called Rebels for a Cause that I'm super stoked about. It's going to be the weekend of June 3rd and 4th, and it's going to be in right outside of Nashville, Tennessee.
That's
But we
awesome.
Ryan Christian of the Last American Vagabond is going to be there.
Love him.
Um,
Joseph
Joseph
Arthur's on the
Arthur,
bill.
who
Yeah,
I've gotten to connect with over the past few years, is and basically it's just a
great.
whole weekend of liberty-minded speakers and musicians and acrobats and comedians. So I'm super stoked. Frank
That's
Kavanaugh
great.
from the band Filter is going to be there. It's going to be a rad weekend. And then for people in Georgia, we got two cool shows coming up. We're playing at Bog Social in Atlanta with our friends The Absurd from Nashville on Sunday the 26th, and then we're playing in Athens. We haven't played Athens in a long time, and we're playing there on the 28th at Flicker Theater. So a lot of cool stuff coming up. And, Jude, until next time, man, it's really been a pleasure as always, and please check out Jude's work at juderoberts.com, and until next time, stay fearless and live free.